Welcome to the History in Focus channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this one. A mother hides her face while putting her children up for sale in Chicago in 1948. Saddam Hussein captured by United States military forces in December 2003. A Mongolian woman sentenced to death by starvation for adultery, extending her hand through the opening of the box where she was imprisoned in July 1913. This is the first bottle of Coca-Cola sold to the public, launched in 1894. Surprisingly, it contained about 3.5 grams of cocaine at the time. This photo shows Bonnie Heim with her young child, shortly before she disappeared in 1993. At the time, her 3-year-old son claimed that his father had killed his mother, but no one believed him. 20 years later, during a home renovation, the son unearthed his mother's remains in the backyard. This dose of 2 milligrams of fentanyl is enough to kill most people. In April 2021, nurses used gloves filled with hot water to simulate human touch on patients dying alone due to hospital protocols. In 2001, a man wrongfully imprisoned for 18 years for murder was finally released after his sister, who had dropped out of high school, went to law school to prove his innocence. Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko, before and after surviving an assassination attempt by poisoning attributed to Russia. Adam Rayner is the only recorded case of someone who was both a dwarf and a giant. At the age of 19, he was 4 feet 8 inches tall, but he died at over 7 feet 8 inches tall. This is a photo of what the human face would look like if it were completely devoid of all its muscles. This is the first nuclear test after World War II conducted at Bikini Atoll in 1946. The Avengers, a group of Holocaust survivors who planned to kill 6 million Germans in revenge. The photo of the Russian sleep experiment is actually a statue from Morbid Enterprises. This Japanese man lost his wife in an earthquake 10 years ago, but never stopped searching for her body. He has dived more than 800 times in the ocean trying to recover her. This is the largest horse that ever existed, a Shire horse named Samson, born in England in 1846. At his peak, he stood over 7 feet tall. This is the loneliest house in the world, located on Elliday Island, Iceland. These babies were left to sleep outside to strengthen their immune systems in Moscow in 1958. This is a wavy brick fence, something that can sometimes be seen in England. This shape uses fewer bricks than a straight wall. A straight wall needs at least 2 layers of bricks to be sturdy, but the wavy wall is stable due to the arch support provided by the waves. A patient suffering from an extreme case of Raynaud's disease, which interrupts blood circulation in the fingers. The Walgreens in Chicago used to be a bank. Now the vault is used for the vitamins section. This iceberg mysteriously flipped upside down one day. A pile of 1 million dead mosquitoes from a mosquito research center. The pile is over 8 inches tall. This image shows what a thunderstorm and lightning look like from above the clouds. The difference in size and price of the McDonald's Big Mac from 1980 to 2024. The headquarters of the National Fisheries Development Council of India is shaped like a giant fish. Buick created the first touchscreen for cars in 1986. The technology was abandoned because customers complained about having to take their eyes off the road. This bus has a real car part attached to its back, used as a warning for drivers to keep their distance. German child soldiers photographed after being captured by the 6th Armored Division of the U.S. Army in Germany. This sky photo looks exactly like ocean waves. The space shuttle Columbia disintegrated upon re-entering the atmosphere, killing all 7 astronauts on board in 2003. This is how John Edward Jones got trapped upside down in the Nutty Putty Cave for 27 hours before he died. This homeless man robbed a bank for $1 and then sat down, waiting for the police to arrive to arrest him so he could receive free medical care in prison. A woman using a freckle removal machine, which is peeling her skin to remove them, in 1937. This mother won the FIFA Best Fan Award after being seen in the stands explaining the entire game to her blind son in 2019. Ken Allen, the orangutan. Photo of Schwartz after suffering a plane crash in 1931. Erroneously identified as dead, she was placed in the trunk of a car and taken to the morgue, where it was discovered that she was still alive but in a coma. Years later, she returned to athletics, where her team won Olympic gold in 1936. Lion tamer and animal trainer Jack Bonavita poses with his lions. An esteemed circus performer at the turn of the century in New York, Bonavita was eventually killed by one of his animals in 1917. This is how dental care was done at home in the 1920s. At that time, without the easy access to dentists we have today, many people performed dental treatments on their own or with the help of family members. Tank Man is the nickname given to the unidentified Chinese protester who stood in front of a column of tanks leaving Tiananmen Square in Beijing on June 5, 1989. A man and a woman hiding under a bridge after the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989 in Beijing, China. The massacre occurred when the Chinese government sent military troops to brutally suppress pro-democracy protesters. In 1928, the world's largest horse was registered at the time, a true curiosity that impressed everyone. With its height and imposing stature, the horse was an attraction wherever it was exhibited, standing out among ordinary animals due to its extraordinary size. This striking photo shows the face of legendary hockey goalkeeper Terry Sawchuk, marked by numerous scars acquired throughout his career before protective masks became common in the game. A group of young people in the early days of surfing in the 1920s. They are holding rudimentary wooden boards, very different from the lightweight and aerodynamic boards we know today. This 1970 photo shows one of the models who helped bring the iconic image of Uncle Sam, the personification of the United States, to life. Uncle Sam, with his wide-brimmed hat, white beard, and star-studded suit, became a patriotic symbol, especially popular during World War I and World War II. In the 1930s, if you wanted to travel with the comfort of air conditioning, you needed a swamp cooler attached to the car window. Its use continued until the 1960s, when modern air conditioning became a regular feature in conventional cars. Two American soldiers sleeping in a trench in Normandy during Operation Overlord in the summer of 1944. The Face of War is a work by Salvador Dali, made in late 1940 in California, United States during World War II. Showing the horrific face of war, Dali was trying to demonstrate through the painting all the terror that surrounded World War II. Elderly women with characteristic Croatian Catholic tattoos in Bosnia in the 1930s and 1940s. Young girls in 1930s China having their feet bound to modify their shape. This practice, applied only to girls, was almost 1,000 years old and occurred primarily in China, causing disabilities to many girls. In the 1930s, two scientists, Winthrop Kellogg and his wife Luella, conducted a cross-raising study in which a 7-month-old chimpanzee named Gua was raised alongside their 10-month-old human son, Donald. In 1920, during the Tour de France, cyclists in the peloton shared and smoked cigarettes while pedaling. The belief at the time was that this helped open the lungs before facing the longer climbs. A full-face swimming mask designed to protect women's skin from the sun in the 1920s. The giant heads of Easter Island have long fascinated historians and archaeologists, but there is more there than meets the eye. Since 1914, archaeologists have been investigating the torsos of these incredible statues. The face and head skin warming mask used in the 1940s was a curious beauty device of that era. Participants of the beauty contest Miss Beautiful Eyes, held in Paris in 1930. The event celebrated the charm and expressiveness of the eyes, something highly valued at the time. Georges Blind, a member of the French resistance, smiling at a German firing squad, 1944. Some of the fiercest warriors in history were the Onabugeisha, the female samurai of Japan. They trained and fought alongside men, using a light and sharp sword called a naginata, which allowed them to defend their lands and families with great skill. Jacob C. Miller was shot in the face during the American Civil War in 1863. Incredibly, he survived, but he carried an open wound for the rest of his life. The so-called Lion Man, whose real name was Stefan Bobrowski, was a popular attraction in the early 20th century. Two girls delivering ice in Manhattan in September 1918. In the United States, women had never worked in jobs like these until World War I caused a shortage of men. Christopher Robin Milne, son of author A. Milne, with his teddy bear, which inspired the famous character Winnie the Pooh, taken in the 1920s. In 1946, in Romania, people used curious methods to relieve back pain, such as in this photo, where a bear is used to perform the treatment. A man performing maintenance mid-flight on a small plane, circa the 1940s. Such daring actions were more common at a time when aviation was still developing, and risky maneuvers were part of the pilots' and engineers' daily lives. An outdoor barber using an axe to shave a man's beard in a scene captured around the 1930s. During World War II in 1944 on a Pacific island, American soldiers care for a wounded dog, part of the war dog units used to detect enemies. Cheryl Brown, after winning the Miss Decora pageant on June 13, 1970. She beat 19 white competitors to win Miss Iowa, becoming the first African-American contestant for the Miss America title in 1971. A photograph taken at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios in the late 1950s, in which the universal genius of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, appears serving tea to Leo, the MGM's no less universal icon. Newsboy Ned Parfit sells copies of the evening paper with news of the Titanic's sinking the night before, April 16, 1912. Coal miners climb a coal mine elevator after a day of work in Belgium in the 1920s. The last sword duel in French history in 1967 between the mayor of Marseille and the Socialist Party's presidential candidate. Astronaut chimpanzee posing for the camera after a successful space mission, 1961. A police sergeant, nicknamed Ghost, is seen standing in the 1930s holding a wooden replica rifle in one hand and a baton in the other. In 1878, Billy the Kid Left played cricket with his squad, the Regulators, in New Mexico. Statue called The Thinker by the French artist Rodin. It was brought to San Francisco by the art collector Big Alma Spreckles in the 1920s. The philanthropist, known for her physical stature and great wealth, donated a lot of money to develop the art scene in San Francisco. Seen from the iconic movie The Phantom of the Opera, the film hit the screens starring Mary Philbin as Christine Daae. Mary was the #1 name for girls throughout the 1920s. This photo supposedly shows a 28-foot crocodile shot in Australia. Some claim, however, that the crocodile's size is due to the camera's forced perspective. The intact seal on the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings, Egypt, before it was opened in 1922. The seal, made of rope and sealed with clay, remained untouched for more than 3,000 years. This is the last recorded photo of a thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger, taken in 1933. This fascinating animal, now extinct, lived in Australia and Tasmania. During World War II, a Polish unit adopted a bear named Wojtek into their unit. Wojtek drank beer, smoked cigarettes, and even had his own rank and serial number. In the 1940s, Margaret Gibb receives a kiss from her boyfriend under the watchful eye of her conjoined twin sister, Mary. They were inseparable, literally. Hachiko was a dog that belonged to Professor Isaburo Uno. Every day, Uno would walk to Shibuya Station with Hachiko and take the train to work. One day, Uno suffered a cerebral hemorrhage while giving a lecture and died. For the next 9 years, Hachiko went to the station and waited for his owner. This is the last photograph taken of Hachiko, a famous Japanese Akita dog known for his unwavering loyalty to his owner. Audrey Hepburn shopping with her pet deer IP in Beverly Hills, California, 1958. Sam Scher, a photojournalist, is best known for his 1937 photo capturing the explosion of the Hindenburg dirigible during its return from a transatlantic voyage. Taken by Louis Hine in the early 20th century, it shows a young girl working in a textile factory, highlighting the harsh conditions of child labor during the Industrial Revolution in the United States. Women wearing typical clothing of their era. The most impressive thing you will notice about 1920s fashion is the shape of women's silhouettes, which were surprisingly straight and flat, without curves as we are accustomed to today. On October 14, 1940, a 3,000-pound bomb hit Balham Underground Station in London during World War II. The bomb pierced about 30 feet below the surface and exploded right above the passageway between the station's two platforms. Hitler addressing the Reichstag at the Kroll Opera House in Berlin on December 11, 1941, to declare war on the United States. A monkey who enjoys traveling catches a ride on the backpack of a Chinese infantry soldier on the new Lado Road that helped conquer Burma. During the 1940s, Stetson Kennedy infiltrated the KKK under a false name to gather information about their activities. At the beginning of the 20th century, Chicago was one of the most crime-ridden places in America. After the passing of Prohibition in 1920, powerful smuggling gangs and gangsters formed to profit from the illegal alcohol trade. Deputy Commissioner of the New York City Police, John A. Leach, in uniform, overseeing the disposal of seized alcohol during a Prohibition operation in 1921. The first official FIFA World Cup was held in 1930. Jules Rimet developed the entire championship, which was contested in Uruguay, where the local team emerged victorious. On March 14, 1951, his 72nd birthday, Albert Einstein was surrounded by paparazzi as he left work at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. Irritated by the gathered press group, the world-famous theoretical physicist stuck out his tongue. The opening of the 1980 Summer Olympics held in Moscow in the Soviet Union. The ceremony, marked by great pomp and spectacle, was a demonstration of national pride and power, with thousands of athletes from around the world parading at Luzhniki Olympic Stadium. Dorothy Counts, the first black girl to attend an all-white school in the United States, being mocked and insulted by her white peers at Harry Harding High School in Charlotte, 1957. Arctic explorer Peter Freuchen poses with his wife in 1947. He lost a leg due to frostbite in 1926. Stagecoach Mary, a 6-foot-tall woman born into slavery, was said to have a temper like a grizzly bear. In the late 1800s, she became the first black female mail carrier in the United States. The last photo taken of eccentric inventor Nikola Tesla on January 1, 1943. Although he produced a series of impressive inventions during his lifetime, Tesla died penniless and alone. Balaji Badejo, a 6'10" Nigerian design student, was the actor behind the iconic xenomorph costume in the classic science fiction thriller Alien in 1978. His imposing stature and elegant movements brought the alien to life in a unique and terrifying way. Photo from the 1930s of Ted Drake from Arsenal being carried off the field unconscious. They brought him back and sent him onto the field, where Ted scored 3 goals. The famous dog, Rin Tin Tin, a German shepherd who participated in World War I. After being rescued from the conflict, he became a Hollywood star, appearing in various films and series, beginning his acting career in 1923 in the movie Where the North Begins. Photo during a Halloween celebration in the United States in the 1920s. People are dressed in large, scary costumes and masks. At that time, Halloween costumes were more sinister and handmade, which contributed to this bizarre look. Bonnie and Clyde, the notorious American criminal duo, left a mark on the nation's history during the Great Depression. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, as they were known, carried out a crime spree in the 1930s that caught the attention of the American public. This famous photo, taken in 1932, depicts 11 workers casually having lunch on a steel beam hundreds of feet above the ground during the construction of Rockefeller Center in New York, known as lunch atop a skyscraper. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, speedway races at Stamford Bridge in London were a major attraction for the public. A police motorcycle with a sidecar prison cell to transport prisoners. Los Angeles, 1920s. In 1839, Robert Cornelius took what is still considered the first photographic self-portrait in history. The Nazi laws prevented August Landmesser from marrying the Jewish Irma Eckler. He showed his indignation by refusing to give the Nazi salute. Inventor Chester E. McDuffie stands beside one of the first atmospheric diving suits, circa 1911. The suit weighed 550 pounds. This incredible photo from 1899 is considered the first ever taken underwater, marking a historic moment for photography. Lyudmila Mikhailovna Pavlichenko was a Soviet sniper during World War II. She was credited with 309 Nazi soldier kills, possibly more than 500, making her still considered the most successful female sniper in history. Colonel Sanders, best known today as the mascot character of Kentucky Fried Chicken, was based on the real-life founder of KFC, Harlan David Sanders. Sanders began serving fried chicken at his gas station in Kentucky in the 1930s. The graves of a Catholic woman and her Protestant husband separated by a wall, the Netherlands, 1888. This photo shows the first subway train ride at Edgware Road Station in London in 1862, marking the beginning of a new era in transportation. Baby cages were used to ensure that children received enough sunlight and fresh air while living in an apartment building, 1937. Measuring bathing suits, if they were too short, women would be fined in the 1920s. Poster for the 1934 film Two Monks, directed by Juan Bustillo Oro, a famous Mexican movie. The plot revolves around two monks. In the 1930s, Chicago stood out for its architectural and urban innovations, including the car elevator system. The Beatles playing for 18 people at the Aldershot Club, December 1961. They would become superstars in a year and a half. James Naismith, the inventor of basketball, holding a basket while demonstrating the game with his wife holding a ball. Naismith created basketball in 1891 as a way to keep his students active during the winter months. A U.S. Navy sailor kissing an unknown woman on VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day, in Times Square at the end of World War II. This iconic photo shows Mahatma Gandhi, the pacifist leader of Indian independence, sitting quietly beside a spinning wheel known as charkha. Gandhi promoted the use of the charkha as a symbol of self-sufficiency and resistance to British colonial domination. Arnold Schwarzenegger, at 16, competing in his first bodybuilding competition. This was the beginning of a journey that would turn him into a global icon, winning multiple Mr. Olympia titles and paving the way for his career in film and politics. The 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, when he was just a child, shortly after being recognized as the reincarnation of the Tibetan spiritual leader. Taken in the late 1930s, the image portrays the young Dalai Lama sitting in front of a Buddha statue, symbolizing his future role as the spiritual guide of Tibet. On April 5, 1976, a black lawyer named Ted Landsmark unknowingly wandered into an anti-busing protest in Boston. The crowd, furious with the idea of racial separation, attacked him. In 1945, the Gadget was the first atomic bomb ever created, as part of the Manhattan Project, the United States' secret program to develop nuclear weapons during World War II. In 1912, this moment captures a scientific test of the latest rugby helmet when safety measures were quite different from today. Race organizers tried to prevent Catherine Switzer from competing in the Boston Marathon. She became the first woman to finish the race, 1967. In 1945, Jewish prisoners shortly after being freed from a death train during the final days of World War II. When the atomic bomb exploded over Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, it was also photographed. The image that captures the explosion of the second bomb was released in Nagasaki on August. Nothing but rubble remains of the front of the federal building destroyed by the Oklahoma bombing. On April 19, 1995, a fuel and fertilizer truck bomb exploded in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people. A baby learning to walk in a wicker structure while the mother does laundry. 1910s. A construction worker standing on top of a steel beam on a skyscraper under construction. Columbia Tower, Seattle, 1984. A girl with her doll sitting in the ruins of her bombed house, London, 1940. This photo, known as the Kiss of Life, was taken in 1967 and captures an electrician giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to a colleague who had been electrocuted while working on a power pole in Jacksonville, Florida, United States. The unconscious man named J.D. Thompson was saved by his colleague Randall G. Champion. Radio broadcasting became popular in the early 1920s following technological advances made during World War I. Weekly music broadcasts began in 1919, and by 1922 there were over 500 stations nationwide with daily broadcasts. Thomas Edison unveils his phonograph, the first machine capable of recording and playing sound, in Washington, D.C. on April 18, 1878. The facade of a 5-story department store covered with coats, as part of a coat sale and an early marketing strategy. The campaign attracted so many customers that the police had to intervene. All the coats were sold. Copenhagen, Denmark, 1936. Blonde Marilyn Monroe shines in a series of photos taken in June 1962 by George Barris, But Monroe's movie star smile hid deep agony. She died of an overdose on August 4, 1962. This photo was taken in 1920 in France during an event showcasing the original costumes of the Michelin Tire Company's mascot, known as Bibendum. Neil Armstrong returning to the lunar module shortly after his iconic step on the surface of the moon in 1969. In 1958, Elvis Presley, one of the biggest music stars at the time, was serving in the United States Army. He was drafted into military service and spent part of his time in Germany. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, better known by the pseudonym Lenin, was a Russian communist revolutionary, politician, and political theorist. This was the last photo of Vladimir Lenin. He had 3 strokes by this time and was completely mute in 1923. Photo of hay transport in the 1920s and 1930s. Before motorized trucks, hay was transported in cars and wagons pulled by horses. These early vehicles were often equipped with large beds or specialized hay racks designed to carry bales of hay. American film actress of Ukrainian origin, popular in the 1920s and 1930s in the USSR, Europe, and the United States, one of the few Hollywood actresses who did not hide her origin, as in every interview she always said she was born in Kyiv. In the 1920s, elephants were often used for various types of heavy labor, such as construction and transporting materials in countries like India and Thailand. Steve McCurry took this famous photograph during a trip to Afghanistan in 1984 to document the migration of Afghan refugees. This photo of 17-year-old Sharbat Gula was taken at the Nasir Bagh refugee camp. It became the symbol of the Afghan struggle and was featured on the front page of National Geographic in June 1985. A man standing on the lap of the imposing statue of Ramses II, one of the most powerful pharaohs of ancient Egypt. This image shows a photograph left on the surface of the moon during the Apollo 16 mission in 1972. The photo depicts the family of astronaut Charles Duke, who was part of the mission's crew. On December 24, 1968, astronaut William Anders captured a photograph of Earth and part of the moon's surface that became known as Earthrise. The photograph was named by NASA as the Pillars of Creation. It shows clusters of gas and interstellar dust in the Eagle Nebula in the constellation Serpens, located about 7,000 light-years from Earth. This is the last known photo of the Titanic still afloat, taken in 1912, shortly before its tragic sinking. Ford cars were introduced during the 1930s, a time marked by the Great Depression that affected millions of Americans for several years. Stanley Woods and his Husqvarna. He was one of the great names in racing in the 1930s, winning 10 IOMTT events, a record that remained for decades before finally being broken by Mike Halewood. Nikola Tesla sits near his firing transmitter in his laboratory in Colorado Springs, 1899. The simple version of the story says that World War I began when Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip, held by 2 police officers in the photo, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. The historic flight of Orville and Wilbur Wright in 1903 at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. This flight made them household names. By the mid-1940s, Lana Turner was one of the highest-paid American actresses and one of MGM's biggest stars, with her films grossing the studio approximately $1 billion when converting their earnings from that time to the year 2024. Women practicing archery, 1930. During this time, women in their quest for independence also began taking care of their health by participating in various sports. The Pierce Arrow Model 80, launched in 1924. This car marked a significant change from its predecessors, being a different model from the previous ones and becoming a reference for the next. Bessie Smith, who was widely known during the Jazz Age. Nicknamed the Empress of the Blues, she was the most popular blues singer of the 1930s. Audience members at the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus were surprised by a worker dressed as a gorilla around the 1940s. Jacques Fath, 1912 to 1954, was a pioneer and created colorful and inventive designs during the 1930s, catering to a young international clientele that identified with the vitality of his brand. Manufactured by Willis Overland Motors and mass-produced between 1941 and 1945 for the Allied forces, the iconic, rugged, all-terrain Willis MB embodies the true Jeep spirit, Go anywhere, do anything. Little ships were warships that became known for returning after World War I, overcrowded with soldiers who had survived the conflict. The legendary boxer Jack Dempsey, left, playfully punching the illusionist and stuntman Harry Houdini, center, while the legendary boxer Benny Leonard, right, holds Houdini. The photograph was taken at a publicity event around the 1920s. The percussionist and Latin jazz bandleader Mongo Santa Maria was part of a select group of Cuban percussionists who migrated to the United States to work in the 1940s and 1950s. Soviet children play chess next to a bust of Lenin, Uzbekistan, 1930s. Between 1931 and 1940, 8.5 million people in the United States lost their lives due to hunger. 5 million farmers were expelled from their land due to debt. The original Betty Boop, Esther Jones, also known as Baby Esther. Esther Jones was an African-American singer and performer from the late 1920s. American actress Clara Bow, famous in the silent film era, posed for Halloween in the 1930s. Known as the great symbol of the it girl of that time, Clara embodies the festive spirit with her charisma and unique style. Simon's Drive-In restaurant in the 1930s. Wayne McAllister designed circular Simon's Drive-In restaurants in the streamlined modern style with a three-tiered roof and a neon advertising pylon. Greymount Hospital Outdoor School, early 1920s. In 1919, the building was purchased by the Belfast Corporation for the municipal hospital to treat children affected by tuberculosis. Exposure to sunlight was an essential part of the treatment for the disease. Russia endured two wars between 1914 and 1920, World War I, and then the Russian civil wars that followed the Russian Revolution. The resulting economic chaos was impacted by a drought in early 1921, and a severe famine fell upon the country. A United States Coast Guard crew is seen on patrol aboard a schooner in the 1940s. The Agaba mask, or Mugbadik, from the early 20th century, represents the strong warrior tradition of the Igbo society. Cast of Star Wars without their costumes: Harrison Ford, Han Solo; David Prowse, Darth Vader; Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca; Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia; Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker; and Kenny Baker, R2-D2. 1977. On April 15, 1865, John Wilkes Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln. 4 days later, on April 19th, the nation mourned as funeral marchers descended Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. Every year from 1920 to 1937, the Royal Air Force held a parade at the Hendon Aerodrome in the far northwest of London. The exhibition aimed to showcase the work and skills of the RAF. British suffragist Sylvia Pankhurst was arrested 15 times during her campaign for women's rights. In this historic photo, she is being toasted at a breakfast celebrating her latest release from prison. Bob Hope began his nearly 80-year career playing streetcars and boxing for money before starting a vaudeville act with a friend from dance school, Lloyd Durbin. Vaudeville was a mix of dance, comedy, and comic sketches. Annette Kellerman promotes women's right to wear swimsuits. She was arrested for indecency, 1907. A group of workers in a gold mine during the California Gold Rush in the United States, circa 1850. A German prisoner of World War II is freed by the Soviet Union and reunited with his 12-year-old daughter, who had not seen him since childhood, in 1956. A policeman stops traffic to make way for a cat carrying a kitten across the street in 1925. The models used by Grant Wood for his famous painting American Gothic. The work, created in 1930, depicts a farmer with a pitchfork next to his daughter, both with serious expressions. In 1911, during the Terra Nova expedition, led by British explorer Robert Falcon Scott to Antarctica, the image shows two members of the expedition standing in an ice cave, with the ship Terra Nova anchored in the background, surrounded by ice and snow. Hannah Stilley, born in 1746, photographed in 1840. Probably the first individual born captured in a photograph. This image captures customers exploring a music store in London in 1955, a time when vinyl records were the main way to enjoy favorite songs. In 1918, 18,000 soldiers in Des Moines, Iowa formed a human Statue of Liberty to sell war bonds during World War I. Johnny Cash prepares to perform during his famous Folsom Prison concert on January 13, 1968. In 1961, residents of West Berlin lifted children so their grandparents, who lived on the eastern side, could see them through the Berlin Wall. In 1926, brave workers climbed the heights of the Woolworth Building in New York. At that time, skyscrapers like this were being built all over the city, and workers faced great risks daily. In 1914, a group of workers poses for a photo while painting the iconic Brooklyn Bridge in New York. Suspended from high cables, these men carried out the dangerous maintenance work essential to preserve the structure. Between 1931 and 1936, thousands of workers united to build the towering Hoover Dam, one of the greatest engineering feats of the time. Located on the border between Nevada and Arizona, the dam was designed to control floods, provide irrigation, and generate hydroelectric power. In 1932, workers painted the iconic Eiffel Tower in Paris. Maintaining the tower, which involves applying several layers of paint to protect the iron structure from corrosion, was a risky and exhausting task. On January 30, 1969, the Beatles performed a historic show on top of the Apple Corps building in London. This impromptu and unexpected concert would become the band's final live performance, known as the Rooftop Concert. Nelson Mandela raises his fists after being sentenced to life imprisonment in June 1964. Lee Harvey Oswald is widely known as the man who assassinated United States President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. After the assassination, Oswald was captured and arrested, but he was never formally tried as he was shot dead by Jack Ruby. The old Cincinnati Public Library, built in 1874, was a true architectural and cultural gem in the United States. Unfortunately, in 1955, the library was demolished, and the iconic building was replaced by a parking lot. The grandeur of the Amazon River was immortalized in some images taken by NASA from the International Space Station. Here is the 1992 photograph. The classic photo of the Beatles, taken by British photographer Fiona Adams, was used as the cover image for the band's Twist and Shout EP. Adams recalls using the rubble of a bombed-out basement. French inventor Nicéphore Niepce is credited with producing the oldest surviving camera photograph, depicting a view from his window in Saint-Loup-de-Varennes, taken in 1827 and captured after an exposure time of about 8 hours. The image of photographer Joe Rosenthal was taken on February 23, 1945, and shows U.S. Marines raising the American flag atop Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima. Alfred Stieglitz, a prominent early 20th century photographer, advocated for the idea that photography deserved the same level of recognition as painting in the art world. His innovative contributions played a key role in changing perceptions of photography. This iconic photo, taken by legendary photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson in 1932, is titled Derrière la Gare Saint-Lazare and captured a decisive moment, a hallmark of Cartier-Bresson's style. The photograph of Charles, then Prince of Wales, kissing his wife, Princess Diana, on the balcony of Buckingham Palace in London after their wedding on July 29, 1981. The famous photograph, Migrant Mother, was taken in 1936, showing 32-year-old American Florence Owens Thompson, a mother of 7 children, looking for work or help to support her family after her husband lost his job in 1931 and died the same year. Taken in 1960 by Cuban photographer Alberto Corda, it became one of the most recognizable images of the 20th century. Known as Guerrillero Heroico, the image was captured during a memorial in Havana for the victims of the La Cubre ship explosion. People collecting geoducks in Puget Sound, a region on the coast of Washington, United States, in 1910. This is a type of mollusk known for being one of the largest and longest living in the world, capable of living up to 150 years. Photo of what is believed to be the largest horse in history. However, it is most likely that the photo was manipulated by artificial intelligence. What do you think? Is this photo real or artificially produced? Type your opinion in the comments. Women in a demonstration of stockings in the 1940s. During World War II, there was a shortage of materials, including nylon, which was used for women's stockings. This caused many women to use makeup to simulate stockings, drawing lines on their legs that mimicked seams. From the San Diego Zoo escaped from his enclosure 3 times in the 1980s. His apparent goals were to visit other animals, throw rocks at a rival orangutan he despised, and take photos with tourists. A man on death row, accused of murdering a girl, was released after months in prison when his lawyer found images from an HBO show proving that he was playing a game with his daughter on the night of the murder. Tupac making a shove-off gesture to the camera after being shot 5 times on November 30th, 1994. A U.S. Air Force lieutenant being made prisoner by a young North Vietnamese soldier in 1967. Queen Elizabeth had 2 disabled cousins who were declared dead, but in reality, they were hidden in a nursing home with no visits from the royal family until their deaths. A man in Algeria, missing since 1996, was recently found captive in his neighbor's underground well. This woman was arrested for protesting in 1961. She was tested for mental illness because authorities couldn't understand why a white woman would care about civil rights. In the 1930s in China, a murderer was publicly placed in a cage and left to die from exposure, hunger, and thirst as a form of severe punishment. This type of extreme penalty was used in some regions as a way to demonstrate the gravity of crimes. This is a photo of the first flower grown entirely in space. The experiment was carried out aboard the International Space Station, demonstrating the ability of plants to grow in microgravity, which is essential for future long-duration space missions. 100,000 knives were used to create the statue called Angel of the Knives. The sculpture was built as a memorial against armed violence in the United Kingdom, using knives handed in through amnesty campaigns or seized by the police. A woman with her hair in permanent wave curlers at a beauty school in the year 1940. This popular method of the time involved the use of heat and chemicals to create lasting curls, marking an iconic era in fashion and hair care history. In 1997, in Russia, a hunter shot and wounded a tiger and stole part of its prey. Later, the tiger found the hunter's cabin, waited for him to return home, and then devoured him. This couple managed to plant and grow over 2 million trees. In less than 20 years, they succeeded in regenerating an entire forest, showing the power of perseverance and environmental action. In 1944, George Stinney Jr. became the youngest person to be executed in South Carolina at just 14 years old. More than 70 years after his death, his conviction was overturned, acknowledging the judicial failure and the injustice he suffered. Doctors in Switzerland successfully performed surgery on a pig that was 5,780 miles away in Hong Kong using a video game controller. In 2015, a father saved his son's life when doctors mistakenly declared him brain dead and began removing his life support. The father locked himself in the hospital with a weapon and had a standoff with the SWAT team until his son squeezed his hand, confirming that he was alive. This is Michelle, an experienced fisherwoman from Seabrook who achieved a remarkable feat by single-handedly reeling in this enormous bluefin tuna off the coast of Hampton Beach. The fish measured an impressive 100.8 inches in length and weighed 601 pounds, making it a memorable catch both for its size and the difficulty of the feat. A young Kuwaiti woman gently holding her goat, symbolizing hope amid the chaos of the Gulf War in 1991. The first heartless human in the world. He was able to live without a pulse. A skilled photographer created a fun series in which he appears to steal the moon. This is a body filled with parasites, the result of consuming raw pork for 10 years. A woman appears tiny next to the imposing presence of a giant sequoia in 1950. French beekeepers couldn't solve the mystery of blue and green honey in their hives until they discovered that the bees were visiting a local M&M's factory. A woman submerged 5 sets of her fine china underwater before evacuating due to the wildfires in Northern California in 2018. This watch, discovered in the rubble of Hiroshima, stopped exactly at 8:15, the exact moment of the atomic bomb detonation in 1945. An intact human nervous system, dissected by 2 medical students in 1925. It took over 1,500 hours to complete the work, and there are only 4 of these in the world. A photo of the exact moment when lightning strikes a boat on the beach. This is the largest human skull ever discovered. This is Hans-Georg Henke, a 16-year-old German soldier, crying after being captured by the 9th U.S. Army in Germany in April of 1945. The Jungus Road, or Road of Death, was built in the 1930s by Paraguayan prisoners and is one of the most dangerous roads in the world. These children crossed the river by pulley to go to school in Modena, Italy in 1959. Jenny Joseph, 28 years old, posing in 1992 for the famous Columbia Pictures logo. In January 2007, Russian President Vladimir Putin brought his Labrador to a meeting with the German Chancellor, who is known to be afraid of dogs. A Florida judge placed a Meta Quest 2 to experience a crime in the first person. After the tragic events of September 11th, the Maasai tribe, located in a small village in Kenya, donated 14 cows to support the United States. Every child's jaw is filled with teeth, but we don't think about them until they begin to emerge from the gums. This man was discovered with 90% of his brain missing, yet he was completely fine and lived a normal life. The president of the Maldives conducting the first underwater cabinet meeting in the world, signing an urgent alert on climate change. In 1945, a man survived the atomic explosion in Hiroshima, crawled to a bomb shelter, spent the night there, and took the morning train to work in Nagasaki, where he survived a second atomic explosion. This is Ella Williams, the tallest woman in the world in the late 1800s. This is the appearance of the inside of a sea turtle's throat. This woman stole 5 eggs to feed her children. Instead of arresting her, Officer William Stacy brought a truckload of groceries to her. This Russian stadium did not meet FIFA capacity regulations, so they added 18,000 seats in the most terrifying way possible. A mother showed what 7 months of heroin and methamphetamine dependence did to her child. This is a microscopic Louis Vuitton handbag, the size of a grain of salt. A behind-the-scenes photo of the production of the first Godzilla movie in 1954. The eye of a person after the Hiroshima bomb, showing a cataract caused by the atomic explosion. This man kayaked across the Atlantic Ocean alone 3 times, the most recent being in 2017 at the age of 70. He died in 2021 while climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. After reaching the top, he asked for a 2-minute break before posing for a photo. He then sat on a rock and simply fell asleep, causing his death. A patient with dementia drew himself until he could no longer recognize himself. This is photographer Charles Ebbets taking the famous photo of construction workers having lunch on the unfinished Empire State Building in New York. An aerial view of the land movement in California after an earthquake. One of the earliest examples of successful cranial repair made in Peru in 400 AD, using a gold plate to protect the brain. This is the vehicle with the highest mileage in the world, having traveled an incredible 3.3 million miles over 52 years. A cross-section of a road in England, showing the corresponding time periods of each surface. A modified map found in the lobby of a Chinese hotel, depicting China as the center of the earth. Thousands of sea lions started sleeping on San Carlos Beach in California due to the presence of orcas nearby. This is Cassius, a 120-year-old crocodile, 18 feet long, weighing almost 3,000 pounds. This is a 20-sided die found in Egypt, dated to 200 BC. This beer bottle was found in Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the world, at 36,000 feet deep. This is the appearance of a great white shark seen from another angle. This photo of a rare African black panther under the stars took 6 months for the photographer to capture. This is what a motorcycle helmet looks like after an accident at 70 miles per hour. This is a vampire wasp, known for laying its eggs under the skin of its prey, recently discovered in the Amazon. In 2010, a Nigerian black couple living in the United Kingdom had a white, blonde, and blue-eyed baby, whom they named Miracle Baby, a 3D CT scan of a 73-year-old Algerian woman with a 30-year-old calcified fetus found inside her. The Danish Special Forces, known as Frogmen, an elite unit specialized in amphibious operations, rescues, and reconnaissance missions. A photo of a solitary man refusing to perform the Nazi salute in Nazi Germany in 1936. Life magazine published this photo of Malcolm X holding a gun in 1964 after he received numerous death threats from the Nation of Islam. Dustin Gorton, a student at Columbine High School, was in shock when he discovered that the shooters responsible for the school attack were, in fact, his friends. A photorealistic image of what Abraham Lincoln would look like if he lived today. The image is based on an imaginative exercise combining historical features with modern-style trends. Walt Disney, visibly radiant on the opening day of Disneyland in 1955. This moment was the culmination of his dream to create a unique amusement park that would become a global icon. Minutes before the 2004 tsunami hit the coast of Thailand, 10-year-old Tilly Smith alerted her parents about what was about to happen. Tilly had learned about tsunamis in her geography class just 2 weeks earlier and recognized that the people on the beach were in danger. She is credited with saving the lives of her own family, as well as hundreds of tourists. Tilly's courage and awareness helped prevent an even greater tragedy that day. This is Saddam Hussein's golden AK-47. The weapon was part of the former Iraqi leader's show of wealth and power. The golden AK-47 symbolizes his opulence and became an iconic item representing the regime and its policy of intimidating adversaries. Jakob Naken, the tallest soldier of all time at 7 feet 3 inches, talking to a Canadian corporal who stood at 5 feet 3 inches. The height difference between them is impressive and highlights how unusual Jakob Naken was, both in his time and in military history. The hand of a radiology technician showing the damage caused by radiation. Constant exposure to radiation can result in harmful health effects, including burns and even cancer, making the use of protective equipment essential for professionals in this field. A woman in France was deceived and lost 830,000 euros after believing she was in a relationship with Brad Pitt. These are the photos she received, supposedly sent by the actor, which convinced her of the hoax. Before alarm clocks were invented, there were knock-ups, people who walked the streets in the morning tapping on windows to wake up workers. This curious job was common during the Industrial Revolution, especially in regions of the United Kingdom and Ireland. This is Pando, but it is not a forest. It is all a single tree. Each trunk is genetically identical and connected by one root system that is at least 80,000 years old, making it one of the oldest and largest living organisms on Earth. This is what safety standards looked like in the 1960s. At that time, safety regulations were much more relaxed than they are today, resulting in workplaces and products with fewer precautions to protect people's health and safety. A company in Japan offers employees who do not smoke 6 extra vacation days each year to compensate for cigarette breaks. The company discovered that this new policy encouraged many employees to finally quit smoking, promoting a healthier and more productive workplace culture. In 1957, someone took a selfie using a piece of wood to activate their camera. This precursor to modern selfies shows how human creativity has always found ways to capture moments, long before smartphones and automatic selfies. This letter was written by Emmy Hawke in the year 1909 after she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. It is one of many letters she wrote to her husband, and in it the phrase, "Dear, please come," is repeated. This 100-year-old giant tortoise produced 800 offspring and saved its species from extinction. Its contribution was crucial to the preservation of the species, highlighting its vital role in biodiversity conservation. This is what the end of the Great Wall of China looks like. The wall, which stretches for thousands of kilometers, ends in an area with breathtaking views. Al Capone is the reason we have expiration dates on milk bottles. After his niece became seriously ill from consuming spoiled milk, Capone pressured authorities to implement regulations on milk expiration dates. An analysis of ancient footprints found in white sands confirms the presence of humans in North America during the last glacial maximum, 21,500 years ago. A man kisses his girlfriend in farewell after being sentenced to life in prison. The lower dungeon of Warwick Castle, a part of the prison where inmates were left and forgotten. A fawn curled up next to a fake deer used for shooting practice. In 1977, Bill Gates was arrested for a traffic violation, and the outline of his mugshot ended up being used as the default profile picture on Outlook. The kitchen door of this monastery was intentionally designed to be narrow, forcing the fatter monks to diet. Charles Bronson in 2001, the man known as the most violent prisoner in Britain. Insects trying to escape floodwaters, seeking safety. This is Point Nemo, the furthest point from any landmass in the world. This is what happens to a hand exposed to extreme cold when affected by the rare condition called cutis marmorata. This is Chris Espinosa, the longest-serving employee at Apple, who joined the company in 1976 at the age of 14, when the company was still operating in Steve Jobs' garage. This is a CT scan comparing the body of a woman weighing 250 pounds and another weighing 125 pounds. A wolf that lived for years with a branch stuck between its teeth. Foam squirrels are insects that produce bubbles by excreting sap and cover themselves with them to hide from predators. A man built a mini Taj Mahal for his wife. The house cost $260,000 and took 3 years to complete. This woman smiled after being sentenced to 20 years of hard labor by a South Vietnamese court, telling the judge that his government wouldn't last that long. This is the border between Canada and the United States, literally a cleared line in the forest. Model Anna Nicole Smith, 26 years old, beside her husband, oil magnate Howard Marshall, 89 years old. This is Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, testing the filters on photo booth in 2005. Security guards kicked Travis Scott out of his own show in Moscow in 2014 without recognizing him. President Obama taking a photo with a child who fell asleep during an event at the White House. The moment when this runner realized he accidentally entered a couple's engagement photo. A photo of Jacob Miller, a soldier in the American Civil War, with a wound caused by a bullet. He survived with the bullet lodged in his head for 31 years. A baby elephant crying uncontrollably after being rejected by its mother. She was seen trying to kick and crush it, so the calf was isolated and treated. Queen Elizabeth II drove herself on public roads until her 93rd birthday, stopping only after Prince Philip took her driving license away in 2019. This person has only 4 fingers on their left hand and an index finger in place of the thumb. Former President Bill Clinton's cat, Socks, sitting at the podium in the White House press room on March 19, 1994. This is future French President Emmanuel Macron with his future wife. He was 15 years old and she was 40 when they met. Santa Claus wearing a metal helmet while delivering presents during the London Blitz in December 1940. This is Tony Serini, a man who walked along Florida beaches at night with 30-pound lead shoes and 3 fingers in 1948. This is the house mace, the official weapon used to strike members of the United States Congress. Nikola Tesla's last message to his mother before he died was that all the years he spent in service to humanity meant nothing but insults and humiliation. An old beer bottle was used as an anvil to break countless snails by countless birds. The bottle has been used by the birds for over half a century. This man is part of the Aquamen, a French theater group known for walking around with aquariums on their heads containing live fish. Ethan Zuckerman, the man who invented pop-up ads, apologized to the world for unintentionally creating one of the most hated forms of advertising on the internet. American soldiers in 1900 posed in front of the grizzly giant, a sequoia in Yosemite. The tree is still there today. a couple dividing their Beanie Babies collection in divorce court in the 1990s. 2,000-year-old terracotta warriors recently exhumed, photographed in 1974, still showing their original color scheme before deterioration. Michael Jackson with some members of the LA Crips on the set of the Way You Make Me Feel music video. A cell tower disguised as a cactus located in Arizona. The stinger of a honeybee just milliseconds after it performed an attack. A real photo of a molecule taken with a super powerful IBM microscope. A man found a life-size Monopoly board under his carpet. A father and son getting fit together over 6 months. A close-up photo of the head of a mushroom beetle. The rarest whale in the world, which had never been seen before, appeared on the beach in New Zealand. A lemon after being left to grow on the tree during the winter. A trash can specially made for pizza boxes in Italy. This is Tokyo in the 1960s, before any skyscrapers had been built in the city. This is a microscopic image of a pair of ovaries from an adult fruit. A fish tries to escape through the spiracle of a shark, an opening that allows the shark to breathe while resting or feeding. This is the fully reconstructed skeleton of a stingray. This person has a 300-year-old bonsai tree passed down through several generations of the family. These are the real colors of a rose maple moth, found in North America. Cicadas briefly turn a bright fluorescent blue color when they just emerge. These stairs in a Japanese pharmacy show the calories burned with each step climbed. Crew members inside the massive cargo hold of a liquefied natural gas tanker. This Australian gardener created a new variety of avocado after 30 years of attempts. Now it no longer turns brown when left outside the refrigerator. Scientists revealed the shape of a single photon for the first time in history. People in this small town in Andalusia, Spain, literally live under a rock. This is a static tattoo which does not move but has a shaking effect. Someone sold this Hot Wheels box on eBay, and the buyer sent this photo. The buyer turned out to be the original child shown in the image and wanted to reclaim this iconic box. This extremely rare moose was spotted in a man's backyard in Norway. A breathtaking view of a cozy cabin located in the heart of Alaska. 23 years ago, someone impaled a 60-pound pumpkin atop a tower at Cornell University in the middle of the night. It was over 170 feet from the ground, and to this day, no one knows how it happened without anyone noticing. This is the Amazon in the year 1975, compared to the same location in 2009. The difference clearly shows the impact of deforestation over the years. An extreme close-up macro photo of a wet insect, revealing impressive details that usually go unnoticed. This tiny lizard, while shedding its skin so perfectly, appears to be wearing a little lizard spacesuit. An image of an 18,000-year-old puppy found frozen in the Siberian permafrost, an impressive discovery that offers a window into the distant past. The clearest image ever recorded of Phobos, one of Mars' 2 moons, revealing incredible details of its surface. Phobos is the closest moon to its planet in the solar system and is gradually approaching Mars, which could eventually lead to a collision. This lobster is a genetic anomaly. Only 1 in every 100 million lobsters is born white. This rare coloration occurs due to a mutation affecting pigment production, preventing the lobster from developing the typical color of its species. A stone carving of a woman, thousands of years old, found in France. This type of cave art is one of the earliest forms of human expression, reflecting the beliefs and daily life of prehistoric civilizations. This is a real baby bat still inside the womb. Interestingly, bats give birth to very small offspring, and the gestation process can last up to 60 days, depending on the species. This is the skeleton of 2 conjoined twins. Such cases, though rare, occur when the fetus does not completely separate during development. The complexity and variety of conjoined twin cases have fascinated scientists for many years. This is a photo taken by someone aboard an aircraft showing the fire in Pacific Palisades, California. Wildfires like this are a major challenge in the region, often driven by hot, dry weather and strong winds. This is a mother and her child with piebaldism. a hereditary condition that causes a white streak in the hair. Piebaldism occurs due to a lack of pigmentation in a specific area of the hair, and though rare, is completely harmless. There is a bakery located in Denmark that sells cookies with the frowning face of Donald Trump. The idea emerged as a humorous form of political criticism and quickly became a hit among local customers and tourists. This is a fish trapped inside a jellyfish. Despite being stuck, the fish managed to control the jellyfish's movements as if it were a distorted kind of living, pulsating submarine. One of the many selfies taken by the last emperor of Russia, Nicholas II, throughout his life. Fascinated by photography, he frequently captured everyday moments with his camera, which today offers us a rare and intimate look at his personal and family life. This is what the skeleton of a hedgehog looks like. Despite its round body covered in spines, its skeleton is surprisingly delicate and small, revealing the compact bone structure that supports its characteristic shape. This is what a turtle looked like 10 million years ago. At that time, some species, such as the stupendomies, were so large and powerful that they could have bitten an entire human with a single bite. These prehistoric turtles measured over 10 feet in length. These are mosaics on the floor of a Roman villa found beneath a vineyard in Negrar, Italy. These mosaics offer a fascinating glimpse into the art and daily life of ancient Rome, preserving stories from a time that dates back centuries. This is a Chinese water deer, a species of deer that evolved tusks instead of antlers. The tusks, similar to canine teeth, are a distinctive trait of this species and are used mainly during territorial disputes, unlike the traditional antlers of deer. This is a close-up photo of an iris growing over the pupil of the eye. This rare phenomenon, known as coloboma, occurs when there is a failure in the closure of the eye structure during embryonic development. This is goalkeeper Sam Bartram, alone on the field, unaware that the match had been canceled 15 minutes earlier due to heavy fog. He remained in position, alert, believing the game was still in progress, a scene that became legendary in the world of soccer. Nikolai the walrus received a fish cake as a birthday gift from a zookeeper, and this was his reaction.